Have you ever struggled to truly connect with a loved one or even just a coworker or friend? If so, you might be having some difficulties with empathy or being empathetic. Watch this video where I'm going to go through some steps that you can practice to help you beef up this empathy muscle. Let's start off with what is empathy. According to the Oxford Dictionary, empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. So why do you need empathy? Really, it comes down to understanding that at the end of the day, we humans are social animals, meaning we thrive in groups. From an evolutionary perspective, that's how we've been able to survive. We are wired to connect. From the day we're born, we actually need others to survive. We would not be alive if someone else didn't feed us, take care of us, put clothes on our back. We just would not survive. So we really are hardwired for these connections. Now, in terms of different types of connections, relationships, friendships, work connections, at the end of the day, empathy is kind of that vehicle that really makes sure that we understand one another. It's a key component in trust. It really makes the other person feel seen and heard when they think that you are being really empathetic and that you really get them. In my experience as a therapist, empathy is such a crucial skill to even just let people's defenses go down and really have a sense that I'm there with them, right? It's not like I'm above or better or I'm having sympathy for them, but like I'm getting in the trenches with them and I'm trying to understand and be with their experience. And people really appreciate that and need that to feel seen and heard. I see all the times when I work with couples how one partner might express to the other one, like, I need you to be more empathetic, or I need you to get me. I need you to understand where I'm coming from. And I see often that some people just never learn or had the tools or the skills to be empathetic, or how do you even do that? So today I'm going to break down the 5 attributes of empathy according to Brené Brown. She's a popular social worker, researcher. I'm sure you've heard of her. I'll link to all her information below. I'm a certified Daring Way facilitator, so that's why I have some of this additional training from her work. But these 5 attributes of empathy, I really like when I teach them to clients. They really get it, because empathy, thankfully, is a skill, a muscle that you can practice. Like if you mess up and you screw up, that's okay. Or if you never knew how, totally fine. You can really learn how to practice this. Okay, so here are the 5 attributes. Number 1, perspective taking. So it's really, really important. Can you put yourself in the other person's shoes? So for a moment, try to really understand, what is this person trying to communicate to you? What are they telling you? What do you see in their nonverbals, their face, their tone? So really trying to look at, okay, what is going on for this person? So that perspective taking. Attribute number 2 is staying out of judgment. This one's really, really crucial, sometimes really, really hard, because of course we might have a tendency to judge. Thoughts might show up, which is fine if they show up. What's really important though is to not get too caught up in them and redirect the focus on just really trying to understand the other person, not get caught up in the judgment of the person or the situation, or letting that dominate the way you respond. Comment the word me to let me know that you also need to practice this empathy muscle. Listen, like I said, I do this all the time in my professional role, but in my personal life, I try to be empathetic. But of course, it's sometimes that I mess up. I get stuck. I have empathetic failures. When there's stuff that shows up in my relationship that triggers my stuff, it's hard sometimes. So I would also write down me, because this is something that I always have to be conscious of continuing to practice. One is recognizing the emotion. So this one might have different components in terms of where you might get a little bit stuck. In terms of, you have to have a general understanding of emotions, being able to label basic emotions. I know Inside Out 2 just came out, which I haven't watched it, but that might be even a good primer for kids. But either way, you want to have a general sense of recognizing emotions. But this other piece of recognizing emotion, like what is the emotion that this partner or person is feeling, right? Are they feeling sad? Are they feeling angry? Are they feeling anxious? Are they feeling disgust? Whatever it is, right? You're trying to recognize the emotion that this person's communicating to you. And this other part that is really helpful is you're going to try to tap into what your experience of this emotion feels like. So for instance, let's say the feeling is sadness. That's what you hear from this partner or person. You want to tap into, like, what is my experience of sadness? What does that feel like for me? And not in a way to take over the show, but to then eventually go to the next attribute. But first kind of like accessing, like, what is that feeling like for me? So then you go to the fourth one and then you communicate that emotion to them. So from this place of tapping into what sadness feels like to you, communicating like what you understand or how this really feels like you get, or your experience is like this. Is that what they mean? And again, in this like 3 and 4, you're always welcome to like check in and ask questions if you're unsure, right? You can take a really kind of open mind, listening, active listening. It sounds like you're sad. Is that what you're feeling? No, I'm not sad. I'm pissed off. Okay, that's much different, right? But again, you can really have this attitude of curiosity and openness and like being wrong. Attribute is really mindfulness. And so mindfulness, again, is really being able to be present with the experience that you're hearing, right? Once you're tapping into that feeling for yourself and you're communicating that, right? Being present with that, staying with the feeling that you're hearing this person sharing and staying with the experience that they're sharing. It's like something that I find really crucial in general, when we're having an interaction with someone, this piece of really being seen. What can get us stuck is if I can't be with you in this hard place because I have a really hard time being there. And listen, this is something that I've had to really work on when I started my journey of being a therapist. It's like really leaning into the discomfort that sometimes life is really hard and shit happens. And sometimes it's really like being able to just be there and holding space for that person. And I'm here, like I am here with you when you're this moment of just stress. Now, this mindfulness piece, though, I want to be really clear. It's also not getting too involved in the other person's feeling, right? Like amplifying it to the nth degree that then you can't be with them and you've lost sight. And maybe there's more like enmeshment or unhealthy attachment. Right, so it's not this avoidance, but it's also not this over-identification. It's like being present with the experience, but allowing it to go. To recap, the 5 attributes: perspective taking, staying out of judgment, recognizing the emotion, communicating the emotion, mindfulness. Let's imagine your partner comes home and had a really stressful day at work, and they're talking about their day. Their boss maybe gave them some really harsh feedback. Maybe they're sharing with you. Perspective taking is just, again, putting yourself in their shoes. Okay, what is it like for them? What are they telling me? Your partner's telling you, man, I'm really pissed off. This is really hard. My boss said I bombed that presentation. They expected more from me. I don't understand how they don't get, though, that I was overwhelmed. I did my best. So that perspective taking is really being able to try to sit in their shoes, staying out of judgment, right? So that piece, it's like not trying to judge your partner, like, well, you should have done more. I tried to help you. Or not judging the boss, like, they suck. Like, what do I need to do, right? Again, sometimes people want that, but a lot of time in my experience, people just want, again, to be heard and listened to. So staying out of that judgment, not getting too caught up there. Understanding, like recognizing the feeling. So maybe the feeling is anger, disappointment. If they're getting really hard on themselves, maybe it's a little bit more shame. And so again, you would tap into that experience. Notice how I acknowledge that there's different feelings that are showing up, which can be common, right? We are complex. It doesn't mean that we have one experience. But if it's helpful for you, just kind of think about like what's the main or overriding feeling that you hear. Here, it might be like more anger. And so again, accessing that feeling of anger for you, like, okay, well, for me, when I get really angry, I feel really like it's not fair. Like, I don't understand why this happened. There's kind of a sense of injustice. Like, that's what it feels like for me. So then communicating that back, it sounds like you're really annoyed and frustrated with your boss. It feels really unfair. And I get why that would feel really unfair for you. And again, in any interaction, but open to feedback. Maybe your partner says yes or absolutely not. That's not what I'm feeling. Whatever the case is. Again, in this practice of empathy, the focus is more on the relationship. And in this moment of you being empathetic and like really trying to understand, it's also the willingness to be wrong. And then mindfulness, right? So that mindfulness in this example would just be trying to stay with your partner as they're sharing this and stay with like maybe you're getting angry, right? Noticing like maybe, of course, you care about your partner. And so maybe you're getting angry on their defense and like you can notice that, but really try not to make it about yourself or your experience because it shifts the focus from your feelings to what they're going through. And maybe then they have to be like, no, it's fine. I don't want you to do anything, right? So again, don't get stuck in that. Just trying to be mindful of it, but being present as much as possible to what this partner is sharing with you. Give me a thumbs up now if you are going to practice being more empathetic. And because this skill is universally applicable to any kind of social interaction. So really give me a thumbs up to let me know that you're going to try to practice being more empathetic and practice these 5 different attributes. Hopefully this video is helpful for you in how to be more empathetic, and I encourage you to really think about which area in your life, which relationships could really benefit from you being more empathetic. Now, I'm sure maybe you want other people to be empathetic towards you, and for the purpose of this video, I want you more to focus on like your role. All right, guys, like I always say, encourage you to continue nurturing your mind, body, and soul, whatever that looks like for you. Thanks.